Blog Talk Radio.
We are the music makers, and we are the dreamers of dreams.
Ladies, gentlemen, heroes, villains, one and all. This is Superhero Academy, and I am your host, Crossfire the Crusader. I want to wish everybody a happy new year, and we're starting off the new year with a bang. I've got on the line with me our regular caller, Silver Sentinel, and our extra special visiting professor this week, all the way from halfway around the world, Captain Australia.
G'day, mate. How are you?
Doing good. How are you doing today, sir, Captain?
I'm fine, thank you.
You're fine? All right. And Silver, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good myself.
Yeah, very good. We're like I said, we're starting off the new year with a bang, and I am very, very honored to have you on the air here, Captain Australia. I know some of the other people that do shows have talked about getting you on there, and the time just has not worked out. It's just been quite a blessing that we're able to get you. For those of you that don't know, Captain Australia is actually calling us from tomorrow morning. This is the time zone. It is Monday morning there at this time, and it's Sunday afternoon here. And I've been looking over your blog, Captain Australia, and I am very impressed. I want to go ahead and get the ball rolling here. The first thing I want to ask is just the simplest question I ask everybody: how did you get started as a real life superhero?
Well, mate, for me it was a random moment of inspiration. Like I was not aware of this community until much after I began my personal quest. It sort of was triggered by the birth of my young son, and around that time I started to, I guess, think more seriously about my obligation to try and make the world a better place. Up until that point, I'd sort of turned my eye from that, although I perceived a clear duty. I'd been whispering to myself that I couldn't really make a difference, and that I should just protect myself behind a shield of apathy and just turn a blind eye to the evil and the darkness that I see in the world around me. But after my son was born, I couldn't continue with that level of self-deceit, and I started to think about ways in which I could attack the problem of the growing evil in the world, and for me, Captain Australia was the answer.
Very good. I got another caller on the line. Area code 617. 617, you're on Superhero Academy.
Hey, this is Basilisk.
Who?
Basilisk.
All right. Welcome to Superhero Academy. We're here with Captain Australia. If you have any questions, just go on ahead and jump in when you get a chance here. We're glad to have him answer it. And Captain Australia, I was looking at your blog, and one of the things that said that got you started down this way was you was actually able to stop a rape from happening?
Yeah, that's correct. There have been 2 instances where I've been able to prevent sexual assault so far in my career.
Well, congratulations on that. That is amazing right there for any lifetime. Looking over your blog, it seems like one of the things I noticed this week was you were talking about a young man whose bicycle was stolen. and that you had gone down to investigate the bicycle theft and also to replace his bicycle. I guess out of pocket you bought him a new bicycle. My question about all that is, first off, how do people get a hold of Captain Australia when they have a problem?
How do people contact? Well, sorry, mate. I think we've got a little bit of a walkie-talkie relay because I'm on the other side of the world. I don't mean to speak over you. On the online journal that I keep, there's an ability for people to just come and make their comments and make requests, and there's phone and email as well. So this particular gentleman, he rang me one Sunday morning and outlined that he'd been a victim of crime, and we discussed how I might be able to help him. And I went down and scouted around the area. He lives in a very rough neighborhood, low socioeconomic environment. There's lots of drugs and little teen gangs, and scouted around it. Clearly recovering the bike was not possible, and he was a factory worker, didn't really have the recourse to buy a new bike, and the crime had really affected him. And in my view, doing a good deed is as important as fighting evil, and this particular young man was darkened by what happened, and it's very possible he might then, at some point in the future, say to himself, look, I've been robbed, it's okay for me to rob, and then the darkness propagates. So what I was able to do was just buy him a replacement bike and take that crime onto myself, and he walked away from that with a great big smile on his face, and it was a great opportunity for me to do a good deed.
Impressive, very much. You kind of touched on one of the questions I was going to ask you about here. You have a 3-part mission. I think anybody doing what we do could learn from this 3-part mission statement of yours. You want to go ahead and share that with everybody?
Sure, mate. It's essentially, as to how important they are, I haven't really worked that out yet, like which is the most important part of my mission. But it started out purely just to fight evil, and that was the dominant aspect of my mission. But as I started to get out there in the real world and articulate my goals to people, the other aspects of my mission became more clear. But the first, number one, is to fight evil. And that's not just crime or criminality. Sometimes the legal system itself can be evil. It's really about my own moral compass, and I recognize that can be a dangerous thing. That can bring you to the path of the vigilante. But at the end of the day, it's about unmasking evil and finding ways to engage it. The second part of my mission is to do good deeds, which is by far the more positive yin to that fight evil yang, where I look for opportunities to help people, just random acts of kindness, like you say on your side. I look for opportunities to make the world somehow a better place, and that can be supporting charities. Like there was a Sleep on the Streets event for the homeless not so long ago, where I went and with a crowd of they were mainly churches, but supporters, and we slept on the street to raise funds for homeless. And the third aspect of the mission is actually to inspire other people to sort of take up that personal quest to make the world a better place. So that depends on my ability to do good deeds or make a meaningful attack on evil, and then to share what I do with other people and hopefully have them understand it. Because even if only one person in 1,000 sees something that I've done and takes it on board personally, then there's another ambassador for goodness. They will hopefully, in their own lives, take up the same quest. And even if that has a more subtle effect, I think for me the hope for humanity is the fact that kindness and decency does have a ripple effect. I do believe that people have the potential for horrible, despicable acts, but also for acts of great decency and compassion. So I think that balance is not that we're in a state of imbalance now, but by spreading that message, hopefully people will begin to take that path of integrity, because at the moment it seems more about apathy and self-deceit. we as a society are about those qualities. So I think that it's the third part of my quest about inspiring others is really about people trying to unlock that message in people that they should pursue their own path to moral excellence.
Definitely. I know I first heard of you, Captain Australia, of all places, from another Blog Talk radio show that used to be on called Simeon Connection. A gentleman by the name of Malvado. He was kind of talking about he was wanting to be your arch enemy or something along that lines, and basically his description of you is you're a Teflon hero. Everything he threw at you, you just kind of you took it in stride, and you said, have a good day. You just kept up the positive attitude. Didn't let anything get you down. Didn't let anything get you angry, and he said you just couldn't get under your skin. And that amazed him, and I was like, I got to check this guy out, and I have not been disappointed. Everything I've seen from you, definitely are that Teflon hero. You're out there to do good and inspire. You don't let these people, your detractors, seem to take you down. Is that? Have you faced a lot of people that want to try and just put you down for what you do? I know I get a few snickers every once in a while, but what kind of response have you gotten there where you're at?
Sure. Well, for the most part, people who react to you in the street, there's a spectrum, and people fall into probably one of just a handful of categories. But for the most part, people are generally positive. That chap that you mentioned, he styles himself as some evil supervillain or something, and I think it's mostly a game. But when he engaged me, we had some dialogue, and I was able to, I see anybody who sort of leans towards or is attracted to the anti-hero or villainy or whatever as actually a potential recruit. I mean, I see a criminal as a potential recruit. Somebody who's in a gang as a potential recruit. Somebody who can be inspired from the path that they're on. People who live in that great grey middle ground, they don't normally, when you're walking around in the street, surprisingly there are maybe, I'd say, 4 or 5 in every 10 people actually don't notice you, despite the fact that you're walking boldly down the middle of the street in a costume that they would never have seen it's like before. They just don't notice you because they're caught in their own sort of grey day-to-day life. The remainder, most of the reactions are generally positive. People are curious. They want to learn more, and that's great because you do get a chance to spread that message, that important message. But I've been threatened. I've been assaulted. There are people who they'll want to walk around behind you singing, abusive words at you. But I don't tolerate that, so I'll turn around and confront them. And the thing about bullies is most of them generally, and you would have learnt this in the schoolyard, most generally are cowards. So you're able to certainly take a bully, and by confronting them and showing courage, you have the potential to inspire them. So in my mind, whenever you meet somebody who is either directly critical or even threatening, they're actually a potential candidate to try and sort of shift the path that they're on. And that I think is the power of the quest of this sort of real life superhero phenomenon. It's really about trying to infect people with decency. And I think people who are on the other side, they're probably the best people to try and turn.
I agree. A lot of what I've seen from the supervillain side is more of a not a wanting to do evil, but more of a doubt about the sincerity of the people who are putting on the costume to try and inspire. They want to find people like yourself, like Silver Sentinel, who are the real deal. And once they do, the attitude changes. They test the waters because there's so many that are doing it that just don't have that solid ground to stand on. They're playing a game, or they're just not. They just don't have the real. They're not the real deal. Is what I'm trying to say. I don't know a better way to say it. And these bloggers, these supervillains, are wanting to test the waters and make sure that superhero X over here really is a man of integrity and not just somebody that wants some attention. And then when they do find somebody like Captain Australia, who's a Teflon hero, or Silver Sentinel, who is just this icon of integrity, that they can look at you and say, hey, that's what I was wanting to find. That's what I was wanting to see, and then they move on to the next person, and they do kind of try to help either weed out the people that aren't serious, that aren't doing a good job, or they help somebody to see whether they're not measuring up and change. So, their tactics are kind of different, but I think in the long run, if you don't let them get to you and make you angry, they can make you a better person by listening to them. And like I said, I would have never have heard of Captain Australia had it not been for the Malvado show. So that was a blessing in itself. Because I'll be honest, I've been quite impressed with you. Now, Captain, I'm going to take a moment. There's a couple of things I usually do here on the show I haven't done yet, and I was hoping Skyman would call, and he's part of this too. Every week we do have our drop zone. That is for people like me that are in the walrus class of superhero, the heftier ones. I've been trying to lose weight since we started this show. I have lost a total of 25 pounds, and if you did last week's show, last week I still had lost 25 pounds. So I enter the drop zone this week with my head held in shame. I have not lost any weight between Christmas and New Year's. I stayed and maintained it, but I didn't lose any. So I'm going to have to make up for it next week, lose 2 or 3 pounds, I guess. But that's 25 pounds total in 9 weeks, and I'm waiting for Skyman to call in and see how he's doing. He was seriously showing me up. And I want to turn it over for just a moment to our other caller here, Silver Sentinel, for this week's Silver Seal of Approval.
Yes, thank you. Now, Captain Australia, I don't know if you are aware of the Silver Seal of Approval. It's something that we do each week where we take somebody that has shown great courage, integrity, someone who's gone out, turned a good deed, someone who deserves recognition for what they've done. And this week, I am very honored and privileged to award you the official Silver Seal of Approval. Having learned of you, I did research and have been very impressed, just like Crossfire had said. But having listened to you speak tonight, you speak so much in the language that I've been sharing with my friends as well, that I'm very, very impressed, and I'm very glad to have you as a superhero brother in arms out there, helping the community, helping people around you, fighting evil, and just making a stand and being an excellent example of what good people can really be when they put forth the effort. Thank you very much.
Well, I appreciate your kind words. Before there was mention of how challenges are important, and they absolutely are. Every person who abuses you is somebody who will help you refine your mission. Every person who puts forward a legitimate challenge, and I would urge anybody out there who's interested in challenging me to go ahead, whether it's a question of my morality or my commitment or anything that they could challenge me on. I'd welcome that. But there's one thing that's even more valuable than challenges, and that's praise from the praiseworthy. So when you get legitimate positive feedback from a peer, that's a watershed moment. So I appreciate your kind words, and I'm humbled by them. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, Captain, I'm going to keep turning it back over to you because there's so much you have to share that the more I talk, the less we get to learn about you. One of the things you shared on your last blog on there was about an interesting person you met on the street this last patrol who claimed to be the devil. And in reading that, I could tell that there's an element that you just cannot convey on paper, on print. Share about that, because one of the things that people don't understand is what some of these people that you'll encounter on the street are like, and that to me is a prime example of some of the strangest you may meet out there.
Well, yeah, this character I found to be genuinely creepy, to be honest. It was in the early hours of the morning, and in Sydney, in New South Wales, one of the largest cities of Australia. There's a lot of homelessness. There's a lot of crime. It's a beautiful city, but there's in little satellite communities around it. There's, for instance, there's a township called Redfern, which is it's completely run down. It looks like in some places it looks like any slum that you might see in Middle Asia. In other places it's quite nice. You really, as with most cities, they hide the suffering just below the line of vision, so you have to actually scratch the surface to find it. But there are these satellite communities where gangs rule, where the drug trade rules, and where homelessness is rife. In this particular case, though, I was actually in the middle of Sydney, where just off the harbour there's this. It's like a dock where all of the ferries take people out to their residential communities, and homeless tend to gather there. So I was just walking around in the early hours of the morning, making friendly conversation with some of the homeless, because they've all got interesting stories to share. And this chap, he was genuinely creepy. He was probably, I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm not equipped to diagnose him, but if I had to guess, he's schizophrenic, and he's got this sort of like a divinity complex or something, whatever the opposite of divinity is. But when I spoke to him, I tried to make conversation with him, offered him a hot drink or food, and he just insisted that he was the devil and that he was watching me. And I genuinely, walking away from that, the shadows seemed darker. I'd look down a side alley and it would be completely dark, and those shadows just felt darker to me. And I guess, certainly I don't believe that man was the devil or inhabited by, an evil supernatural creature or whatnot. But the very notion that someone would gravitate towards evil rather than goodness is disturbing to me. And if this guy's prone to that sort of illness, who knows what kind of nasty little act he could do if he had the opportunity. I don't know that he's ever committed a crime, but it's really hard to sum up how I felt about that encounter. It was very, very creepy. It was on the same day that I met this other young man and bought him his bicycle, and I'd been patrolling around the city. For me, patrols usually take 10, 12 hours, maybe longer, and it was on the back end of the patrol, and it left me with a sense of genuine disquiet. And when I took to my bed, it actually took a little while longer than normal to get to sleep.
Yeah, that's kind of the impression I got from reading, is that it was just one of those you could just feel your skin crawling kind of moments.
Exactly. It was just like that. I felt chilled, and I'm in general I'm a fairly fearless person. The only things that really cause me profound fear, it's the idea of my family being vulnerable. Like something happening to somebody that I love is probably the only thing that really frightens me. Aside from that, I'm not really scared of being hurt. I'm not really scared to confront. I'd like to think, and I may disgrace myself at some point in the future, but I'd like to think that when I do get the opportunity to face a genuine, a real clear black and white evil, that I will stand tall. But even so, this guy creeped me out.
Yeah. Callers, the Superhero Academy again. If you want to call in and have a question for Captain Australia, our guest caller number is 917-889-3317, and we're having a good time and learning a lot from a man whose wisdom is generally hidden from us. Captain Australia, to be honest, you have been kind of an enigma to the superheroes here in the United States. Just our time difference and the fact that you're like 90 degrees away from us around the world. We just don't get to interact as much as we would like, and I'm going to definitely keep an eye on your blog, because the more I read about it and the more I listen to you talk, it's like, man, this is a gentleman who is doing the work. He's got a lot of wisdom about him, and just some humility too. That's a valuable thing you don't see a lot. You generally have a good heart from what I can see of you, and I'm sure there's a lot that can be learned. Now, of course, not everything I ask is. I warned you about this ahead of time. Not everything I ask is going to be the serious side of things, but since you are from Australia, something that has been bugging me ever since the song by Men at Work came out back in the 80s. What in the world, please tell me, is Vegemite?
Mate, Vegemite, well, there's probably another word for it, and that would be ambrosia, the nectar of the gods. Like what Vegemite is, if I describe it physically to you, it's a black sort of paste, kind of like peanut butter, but it's made from, I think, yeast, and it's a unique recipe. It's an Aussie food. If you taste it, you'll either love it or hate it. It polarizes people. I think you can probably get it in America. I've been to America, and I think I was able to get it in. I was in Las Vegas actually, and I do believe I found a store that actually sold Vegemite. So if you're curious to experiment, by all means try it. It's basically a spread for toast, and it's highly nutritious. And you'll either identify that it tastes sort of tangy, and you'll love the taste, or you'll describe it as tasting like cat's piss. But it's not for the faint of heart. It's a bold Aussie sandwich spread.
So somebody once, they couldn't tell me what it was, but they said it tasted like liquid evil.
Yeah, well, you'll either describe it like that, or you'll absolutely love it. It was actually re-released a year or so ago. Some marketing person somewhere dreamed up a new name for it, and you might find it in America. It was called iSnack 2.0, which I think is a profoundly stupid name. But if you've ever heard of that, that may be shelved in America, because I think they relaunched the brand and tried to distribute it more overseas. But to date, it's really just been an Aussie delicacy.
One of my people in the chat room, Le'Veon, was he's listening to your talk here, and he just want to know, do you actually have a faith or belief as a Christian or other religion type like that? Just hearing you speak.
The short answer, okay, I respect all faiths. Okay, somebody did ask me this question about 2 years ago, or maybe a little longer than that now. They said to me, do you believe in God? And up until that point, I honestly did not know. For me, I'm very scientifically minded, so for me to accept something as a proof, an absolute proof, I need tangibly to be able to touch it, to investigate it. Otherwise, like anything that you could take as a fundamental truth may be untrue. Like looking back in time, we believe the world is flat. We've built our pool of knowledge, and look, it's very possible that you're dreaming me, and I don't exist. Like when it comes to spirituality, in my mind, anybody could be right. But I took the question very seriously, and I felt this little voice inside me, and the answer was yes, there is a God. What that means beyond that, I don't have any sort of dogmatic faith. I haven't discovered a religion that particularly attracts me, but I do believe there's a God, and I do pray, usually just for the health and well-being of my son and my wife. Aside from that, like generally just academically, I kind of see church as an invention of man. So, it's a way to reach God. God is the divine, and however it exists, it's this, this higher purpose. And maybe there's good, maybe there's evil as well in that higher purpose. Maybe God is the ultimate moderator who just built it all, and we're all here to make our own choices. And God's the ultimate gambler, watching, hoping that we'll take the good path, but giving us the opportunity to choose. But at the end of the day, I don't know. I really don't know, and I don't have any specific Christian faith. I'd love to meet Jesus Christ. I get the impression he was a blind man, and man God. But for my part, church in my mind was invented by man, and a lot of those structures around churches actually worry me a little bit. You know, like the one of the largest and oldest churches, the Catholic Church. There's a lot of, in my mind, some corruption in there, and I sometimes worry about any structure, be it political or religious or financial, that becomes too powerful. But yeah, I do respect all faiths, and for my part, I'm kind of watchful. I'm a challenger, and I hope one day that somebody's going to sit me down and say, look, I have a message for you, and that when I hear it, it's just going to sing of truth, and then I'll be not just a spiritual man, but I'll be a religious man. Until then, yeah, I believe there's a God.
Yeah, I thought it was a pretty good question, because just listening to you talk, you seem to have a pretty good root, pretty good base for, everything you say. Looking at your blog, you seem to be quite the philosopher. One of your statements, I don't have your blog pulled up right now, but you said something about homeless people are not socially inappropriate, they're just people who don't have homes. I thought, how powerful is that simple statement?
I think I actually stole that one as well. I'd heard that quote somewhere before. I don't recollect offhand, but it reminds me of another one. It was Dustin Hoffman who said it, and it was when I look at a homeless person, I don't see who they are today. When I look at a drug addict or the homeless, I see them as they were when they were a child, and we were all kids once. Whatever choices in life, whatever occurrences in life have brought them to where they are, at the end of the day, they started from that same pure, simple, innocent base that I did, and I've maybe just been luckier than they. So maybe I have an obligation as my inner child to help them.
Definitely. I know. It was just a little over a year ago. I was getting off of a bad 3 or 4 month period where I had lost a job, lost my place to live, and we were struggling to get ourselves out of unemployment. And we started off at the beginning of the year, 2010, just pulling ourselves up with a bootstrap. And this is the point where 2011 we're coming in from a position of strength. So I look at somebody that's homeless and I realize, they may just have been one paycheck away from being successful when the bottom fell out. There's no telling why they're there. They're like you said, it's just a person that doesn't have a place to live. I thought, that's so simple and so powerful at the same time. Silver Sentinel, I got you online. You're being awful quiet. Do you have any questions maybe for Captain Australia?
Well, not really. I mean, I've been listening, and as so much of what he said, goes along with so many of the things that I've said and felt myself. Really, I don't have any questions. I mean, I guess I could say that. Oh, yes, there is a question. I'm sorry, Captain Australia. Now, you said you got into this because of your son. Do you see your son as someday growing up and joining you in the quest for the fight against evil?
Look, it's really possible. I'd like, just to correct that though, I didn't start this because of my son. So my son was more, I think, a driver. What started me on this path was a deep-seated understanding inside myself that I am responsible. And we have to take responsibility. So, I always understood that. I just hid from it for a larger part of my life. I've got a set of skills, I've got certain capabilities, and I always understood that I have an obligation to use them for the betterment of, everybody, the people around me. I have to try and make the world a better place, but I hid from that. So what my son did, he didn't put me on this path. It's something that I've owned kind of for for my lifetime. But what he did was inspired me and made me more truthful. He made me a better. From the moment he was born, he made me a better man. Like I had been in love before my son was born, but when I first held that little boy in my hands, I understood absolutely what true love meant, and I could apply that to other loving relationships in my life. But what that
we've
love
got another
gave
caller
me
on the line. I hate to tell you, I got another caller on the line. Let me get to see. This is our unknown phone number 111. Who have I got on the line?
Stand by for transmission.
You gotta win it in the crossfire from the...
Hello, area code 111. Who have I got on the line today?
Agent Wraith.
I thought it might be you, Agent Wraith. You're on the line with Silver Sentinel, Crossfire the Crusader, and Captain Australia. How are you today, Agent Wraith?
Well, it's mid-afternoon, and all's well on most fronts. Level 54 has another flooding. I don't know how we're going to last through this rain.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're going to get back to Captain Australia here, and if you have any questions, just do feel free to chime in. Again, we're keeping everything on a respectable level. You hadn't been a problem along that line. This is a family-friendly show, so I do remind my callers that we keep things on a socially acceptable level. Captain Australia, I'm just going to ask you, just open up out and out here, if you would just share some of your other adventures, your other missions that you've done to date, some of the more interesting stories, because I find these street stories told by people like Silver Sentinel and Thanatos and Zeta Man to be some of the best lessons that we in the real-life superhero community can have, because that's where the rubber meets the road. That's where we're out there impacting people's lives. And so some of the stuff I read was on your blog was very interesting, and I'd just like to hear it firsthand. Just what are some of the greatest adventures you've had as Captain Australia?
Well, okay, I wouldn't want to mislead anybody out there who's listening to this to say that the path that we walk is an easy one, and I wouldn't want to mislead anybody out there by suggesting that it's also constantly exciting and glamorous, because a tremendous part of what I do is walking, endless walking, and it's about visiting communities that I know to be troubled and talking to people. So in terms of the adventure side of it, occasionally you have an incident. I remember one incident that struck me as actually sort of funny. In the middle of Brisbane, I guess I was getting my Batman on, because I wanted to just watch. So it wasn't about being active. It was more about practicing surveillance than actively patrolling around. It was like 3 o'clock in the morning. In Australia, we carry fewer guns than Americans, but we're more prone to randomly start fist fights. And there's usually trouble at around that time, people fighting over taxis after they've gotten out of a venue. And in the middle of the city, there's this majestic old tree. And I climbed into this tree and along a branch, and I was very well hidden. I'm I'm hearing a land down under there. Yeah, I was well hidden in the branches of this tree, and I was watching people come and go below me. And at one point, a few Korean guys came walking past, and they were eating fast food. I think it was McDonald's, and they were just throwing their garbage everywhere. And I dropped down from this branch behind them. It was, not much more than a story high, and I think I scared the life out of them. But yeah, I was able to point out that what they were doing was wrong, and they actually turned out to be very decent, and we scurried around picking up their mess, and you know, they acknowledged that they were behaving badly. And for them, I'm sure that moment would stick in their mind of this character just dropping from the tree above them that they've just walked unknowingly beneath, to then you know, demand that they clean up their mess, as if I don't know, the city. And they were probably visitors to Brisbane too, so maybe they think every Australian city has a costumed secret litter ninja waiting for somebody to come along who's making a mess. But aside from that, it's just been it really is a lot of walking and a lot of talking. I think that occasionally you have to face the possibility of violence, but really that's more a test of your negotiating skills. You have to be able to fight, but violence should always be a last resort.
That's been my experience over the years that I worked security and such like that. You'll have 30 nights that nothing happens, and one night when everything happens. And you know, other heroes like Superhero and Beta Man said the same thing. But they'll most of the time it's just boring, walking around, talking to people, things like that, and nothing exciting really happens. But it is those moments that the exciting happens that really catches people's attention. Agent Race, I'm going to have to be muted there because the music is kind of causing some feedback here, and I appreciate the enthusiasm, but it's just going to have to keep that down, okay? Well, let's see. Down my list of questions I had for you. I think I've covered everything I wanted to cover. Now, well, let's just go on into the meat of the thing. Somebody was telling you they wanted to be a real-life superhero. What advice would you give them? You're just starting out, and what would you tell them?
So this is directed at me or Silver Sentinel or both?
You, Captain Australia. If somebody approached you today and said, you know, I want to become you. I want to do what you do. How do I get started in this? What would you advise them?
The first thing I'd do is probably send them away and say, think very carefully. Like, I will help you in this. And I very much like to help anybody who comes to me with any kind of request. So I'd treat this like any other, a chance to do a good deed and help somebody get started in a path that they want to walk. But the first thing I'd do is send them away, and I'd say, for the next week, I want you to think very, very carefully about your goals, your mission, your purpose. What are you trying to achieve, and why are you trying to do it? Then come back to me, and we'll sit down, and we'll talk about the identity, your symbol, because the path is hugely symbolic. You're meant to. I chose this Captain Australia identity because it resonates with, you know, the fictional character Captain America, and it's about integrity and aspiring to a moral excellence. And I think that when that person came back, if they gave me anything that implied that they weren't serious, I'd urge them not to do it, because they're going to put themselves at risk. And you should only do that if you have an absolute deep inspiration, like if you have this pure commitment, because there's really no point being hurt or dying for something that you don't believe in. And if they gave me answers that implied that they had a clear, articulate reason for doing it, then I'd sit down and I'd help them design a costume. And really, it's like inventing a religion. It really is. You have to, you know, think of the underlying symbology. You have to choose colors, and if you can't sew, you're in for a nightmare. I don't know. Maybe in America there's a whole lot of resources available, but here in Australia, I just had to muddle through. But I'd help them through the practical steps. But the very first thing I'd focus on is, why are you doing this? Why do you want to do it? And making sure that they had that rock solid commitment inside them.
Well, you know, as far as the costuming here in America, of course, we've got our friend of the show who I do a little commercial for pretty much every week, and that's Jack from Hero Gear. And those of you that don't know Jack, It shows in your costume. You don't know Jack. Jack's been doing costuming for several years. He's made some of the most iconic looks about there for some superheroes. And if you are local, I'm sure he even shipped to Australia. He can turn your vision into a work of art. He has taken some of the some people that he has taken their image, their look, and he has made some of the best costumes, and just even better than you actually envision. I am hoping here in the near future to get Jack to make a new Crossfire suit for me, or at least part of it. I'm doing some armoring and such like that. So those of you that are looking to get a costume made, we don't have to scrounge around anymore. We've got Jack at Hero Gear. That's hero-gear.org, herogear.org, where all the best heroes shop. And it looks like Agent Race has dropped off. All the music, I kept it muted, so I guess he decided he wanted to go. For Night Owl on our talk, our chat room over here, he's pointing out that Jack from Hero Gear did his costume and also did a good job at that. Captain Australia, I got a question for you here. Are you the only superhero in Australia that you know of?
I'm not aware of anybody else doing exactly what I'm doing. I've occasionally had people reach out to me after I've met them on patrol or after they've found word of me online, and they claim to be pursuing the same agenda. But look, there's a chap in Melbourne. I think he called himself the Dark Owl or something like that. But I don't think that there's anybody out there actively patrolling the streets in a costume. No.
Interesting. Now, you mentioned using the symbolism of a superhero. I always call it the symbology of the superhero to inspire, to garner attention to causes that need it, and just basically recreating yourself into a new being, or you called it a new religion. One thing that I do want to touch base on that I'm going to be pushing all year long here is another friend of the show is a group called Heart Heroes, and they use capes. They make capes for young children that have congenital heart disease, and by giving these kids these capes free of cost, they help the kids find their own inner hero to fight this disease that is ravaging their life. And I'm encouraging my listeners and the readers of my blogs throughout 2011 to strive to donate. And if you want to give a number, I've already pledged that I'm going to try and do 6 capes throughout this year at least. But to donate $25 a cape is not much to sow into a kid's life to help them find the strength to overcome these surgeries. Some of them, the young man whose mother founded the group is 3 years old, and he's already had 3 open heart surgeries. And she remarked that he will not go to the hospital without his cape because he has to be prepared for his battle. And so we're trying, as a listeners of the Superhero Academy, to encourage other heroes, other listeners, to help these young kids find their inner hero, but with the donation of a cape. So we understand the symbology of the superhero here. We've got about 11 minutes left of the show. You have answered the question so well. It's just I'm struggling to find something else to ask you. Perhaps you got some questions for myself or Silver Sentinel or some of our listeners that you'd like to hear. Let me turn the tables on you. Let you do some interview here.
Okay. Well, that's curious. Yeah. Well, maybe I'm sorry. I haven't. For me, most of my my energy is spent. Well, at the moment, I have a new daughter coming, and my life is a balance of getting out on the street wherever I can, and then balancing my home and professional identities. And I'd be curious to ask people who are walking that same path how they manage that balance. For me, it's especially now at this fantastically busy time in my life, it's a very difficult thing. I certainly don't get the time to participate in the online communities as I would like to. And I was wondering if you could speak a little bit about how you manage that balance between your, I don't know if your personal identity is secret or public, but how you manage that division of attention and just the limited resources that we all have.
Well, in my case, my identity is guarded. I don't really, just go out and say my real name. If anybody asks why I'm in costume, I tell them my name is Christopher Cross, a.k.a. Chris Cross. But I am also a professional clown, Santa Claus, Easter Bunny, and in general. And I first created Crossfire for a TV show audition, one called Who Wants to Be a Superhero, and later took him into doing more real-world stuff like charity events and such. So I don't necessarily hide my identity. And I also have the advantage that my children are grown up and moved out. It's just myself and my wife at home. Balancing between all the needs of the young child are not something I had to struggle with, although I can really appreciate that because my kids were very young when I started clowning. And to me, devoting any part of your life to creating a new persona and getting out there and using that persona to do stuff is going to be tough, especially when you're talking something along the lines of patrolling and that. The online thing, I have the advantage of my job at night. I have several hours where I could sit and just kind of stay busy on the internet. So that's when I took up the mod position on RLSH.net. If you have a chance, Captain Australia, I do encourage you to go over to that message board. It's reallifesuperheroes.net, RLSH.net, for a good portion of us come together, and I'm sure you'll be well received over there. I am mod as a Silver Sentinel, is the mod over there. We definitely get you in as a member and bask in the glory of your wisdom as we are doing today. But and that kind of opens up some of the time differences. Don't matter near as much when you go in and just kind of post at your leisure. And we're in and out there, people 24 hours a day. We've got members from Italy. I know you know Antomo. You spoke to him on Facebook from what I saw on your Facebook page. And we've got some members that are in Scotland and England. And I do believe we have some in Asia also. Red Arrow is in Japan. He may be in England now, but the message board really kind of helps with the networking and the learning about other heroes. It takes away this time difference thing because we're all there at our leisure and we're just in and out, and it's like a big ongoing conversation. So if you get a chance to go to RLSH.net, I would advise that, definitely, and it'll help a lot. I do want to congratulate you on the upcoming birth of your daughter. I just this past March became a grandfather. My granddaughter was born, and so I'm on the next level there. So it's a little more easier for me. But I tell you, I guarantee you, she's the prettiest girl ever born. Never convinced me any different. But congratulations on being a dad. I can tell you, raising a little girl. I didn't have any sons, but raising a little girl is just so rewarding for the daddy because they're always daddy's girl. You will feel love like you have never felt love from the little girls. My son, unfortunately, was miscarried. We never got to see him, so I got to wait till I get to heaven to meet him. But my two daughters are just the light of my life. As hard-headed as they are, and as much stress that they put on me, I'm just proud to have two girls and now my granddaughter. And I know your daughter's going to be well taken care of, I'm sure. Silver, what's your thoughts on this? I know you're like me. You don't have the kids at home, but what would your advice be to him about balancing family life and such?
Well, when I started this, I was by myself. My ex had left and taken the teenage children. So I was by myself and kind of thinking to myself, I have all this time, and I'm by myself. What should I do? What can I do to help better my life? And I had written a short story for my daughter, and she loved it, and it was called Tales of the Silver Sentinel. And, I found out about the fact that there were people out dressing up as superheroes, and so I got into it from there. I said, well, you know, I help people. This is a good thing. Okay, I'll do this. And I started out just doing, you know, good deeds. I had already been doing Neighborhood Watch, so that kind of rolled into it. And, you know, then it started to grow from there. And then when my girlfriend was about to come out and live with me, this was much later on. I said, well, honey, before you come out here, I've got a confession. She's like, okay, what is it? And I said, well, I'm a superhero. And she took that well, and after talking to me for a while, she decided that that was something she wanted to do herself. So I got lucky. You know, my sidekick became my partner, and oh, now she's threatening me for calling her sidekick. And so, you know,
I hate to interrupt you here. I want to go on ahead and let everyone know we've got about 3 minutes remaining, and here shortly we'll have our closeout music. But I'm going to stay on the line. If anybody wants to continue this conversation into an after show, the call-in number is 917-889-3317. Anybody that wants to bail out on me, I understand you got time. Captain Australia, I want to thank you for being here, and Silver Sentinel, thank you for calling in. And, of course, everybody in the chat room, Levion, Lord Malignant, Night Owl, and all the guests that called in just as guests over there in the chat room. That was quite a turnout over there. I want to thank you all. And, of course, our super villain of the day, Agent Wraith, thank you. Do call back in, but do call back in and behave a little more, a little less feedback to the music and such like that. We will welcome you and give you another chance every week. As we go into the after show, I do want to stay just for a few minutes and kind of go over what's going to be coming up in the next few weeks, and we'll do that off the air. This has been a great show, and I want to thank Captain Australia for your time. I understand you got a lot on your mind right now, and this is a holiday for you, so I thank you for calling in, and hopefully we can get you back on the air again somewhere down the road, because this has been a very interesting show. You are spot on, dude. You have hit the nail on the head with everything you said. I'm very impressed and honored to be able to interview you today and then to learn from you. So thank you for calling and being part of the show.
I appreciate the opportunity, mate. It's been a genuine pleasure.
Definitely. We got like 2 minutes. Silver Sentinel, like I said, anybody else that wants to call in, I'm going to start the music. If you call in, I'll get you in here. And we got 1 minute remaining in the show. Here's our ending theme. Everybody get a good laugh and get ready to put your hands on your hips and do the dance. And we will move into the after show.
We're men in light. We roam around the forest looking for light. We're men in tight. We run from the rich and give to the poor, that's right. We may look like cities, but what would you say, or else we'll put after life. We're men in light. Always on guard, defending the people's rights. La 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 la. From the rich and give to the poor, that's right. We may look like candy, but don't get us wrong or else we'll put after life. We're men in tight, tight. Always on guard, defending the people's rights. When you're in a fix, it's all for the men inside. We're much.
Alrighty, looks like we got just a few seconds left. Those of you that are staying after, this is Crossfire, and I still got Silver Sentinel. Captain Australia had to go. Of course, this was a international call for him, and I thank him for taking the time to make that. I just want to kind of go over what we got coming up in the last few weeks, next few weeks. We've had some awesome shows, starting with the people from Heart Heroes and the show on Nicholas of Myra, Real Life Superhero, were two of our most awesome shows we've done. And last week's DUI New Year's Eve show was also great. And today, Captain Australia. I have been amazed. If you listen back to this on the feedback of the podcast, I want to thank you again. This has been a most amazing show. I'm just honored to be able to be the one to bring you out here and let you talk to the people here in the United States. We are honored to have you as a colleague across the sea and around the world. Coming up next week, we got another hero that was inspired by Captain America. We are going to have DC's Guardian, who is going to be talking to us about the Skiffy Town League of Superheroes and telling us all about that. The following week, one of our big names in the real-life superhero community, we got Zeta Man coming in. The following week from that, the 23rd of January, a gentleman by the name of Peter Tangen is going to be here talking about the real-life superhero project and media relations and other things that affect superheroes. And then on the 30th of January, our last 1-hour show on the Superhero Academy, we're going to have Civitron talking about the Heroic 100. After that, we're going to a 30-minute show, and we will be starting out with the first show in February. We're going to have a show on the heroic lady we know as Rosa Parks, because it is her birthday. And the following week, the 13th of February, it's Kitty Genevieve's Day. Anybody know who Silver does who Kitty Genevieve is? I'm sure many of us do. But we're going to talk about that. I don't have co-hosts for those two shows yet, but that's what we've got coming up. I want to thank everybody who's been listening to this show, who has been commenting on the blog. If you get a chance to go over to the Crossfire Academy for Superheroes blog, we'll be keeping things discussions there about what's going on. Also, we have the Fire by Night, which is my random thoughts and such blog, and the Superhero Bible Study. Please feel free to visit those. And if you get a chance to go over to therlsh.net, it is the place where we are networking. I will post that link over to your page there, Captain Australia. Thank you again for everybody who's listening. This is Crossfire the Crusader, and this is the end of this week's Superhero Academy. You have a good day, and I will meet you all on the high road. Thank you very much.